Right, it looks like I'm live. Hi, everybody. Just come on today just to make a little bit of an announcement because coming up on the 16th of November, Jane and I are going to be doing the theatre show again at the Concord in Southampton. And unfortunately, we thought it had been cancelled, but so it wasn't. So I just wanted to let you know that the show is on. And if you want to see Jane and I in a public forum, in a public place, come and meet us, talk to us afterwards. You're welcome to join us for that show. So it's at the Concord Club. That's in Southampton on the 16th of November. And you'll be able to see in the description below here the link to that site. So you'll be able to sort of say, come along and see us and enjoy live mediumship, maybe get a message from me and from Jane, and sharing our show. And coming up on Saturday, this is another thing I've got to tell people. On Saturday, our live shows have now shifted to Saturday as well. But you can ask questions on these random live ones that I do, live with Craig ones that I do every now and again. So if you've got any questions, you guys coming on at the moment, you can ask me anything you like at the moment, because these are kind of like little open forums today. But as I say, come and see us at theatre. Look at the link below. If you're in the Southampton area, particularly if you're in the south of England, if you're in South London or London, you know, you can get to us quite easily. It's not a hard journey. It's not far from the station if you're coming from London and places like that. So I'm going to take some of your questions, guys. You know, let's see who's on. I've got my little iPad down here. I can see who's on, and you can ask me your questions. Let's see who we got here today. Kit from Chicago. You must be on 24/7, because every time we see you, don't you? Whatever time of day or night I come on, you're always there. But nice to see you, Kit, because I know you're the patron. I just to put a few hellos up from everybody there. I won't say hello to everybody like we do, and just sort of flick a few hellos. But if you've got any questions, guys, you're welcome to ask me today. I'm only going to be on for a few minutes because Jane wants to go down the garden centre today, so I've got a few minutes to spare, and I thought, well, let's say hello to a few people and see if you've got any questions you want to ask me today. You know, there's one I thought would come up, something about Biden. Hello, I'm praying that what you said about Biden is out of the Republicans that taking over is true. Well, I think there's going to be a swing, actually, because he's going to be unpopular, as I've spoken about before. And I think we're going to start seeing, but I noticed actually, one of the predictions I made earlier, I made it earlier in the year. I said there's going to be an alliance, didn't I, between Australia, America, and Britain. I also included Canada, and then I said other English-speaking democracies would be involved in it. Do you remember? Well, we got 3 of them joined up today, I see, on the news, saying that there's kind of a military alliance, which is going to mean that Australia, for example, this is another prediction for you, Australia will have nuclear weapons. Now, I know that Australia has been very kind of anti-nuclear weapons, but now they're talking about the Pacific Basin, which is really meaning China. I think we're going to see some interesting developments there. And I think this is why Biden triggers that in my thoughts, actually. My thoughts are that Biden wanted to get out of Afghanistan because he wanted to do this sort of deal soon. You know, he wanted to get his troops lined up for China. So we're going to, you know, I said about Taiwan and things like that. That's where we're going to start seeing the serious issues coming up, like I said. And do you remember I also said that North Korea would launch a new missile, but this would be a new type of missile. Well, he's done that, hasn't he? He's tested a new missile, and that missile is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. So unfortunately, some of my predictions have come true. So maybe those ones that we're talking about before might come true too. But you know, I would just like to see a decent people in charge all around the world, really, you know. So if you've got any questions, you're welcome to ask them. I'm not going to be on for long, but I just thought I'd be on for one. They don't always have to be predictions. It can be anything you like, you know. I just put a few of the hellos up because I see we've got people from New York here. personal ones saying, can I have, will I get my cottage and thing. I don't do the personal questions on these. I can't do that. Otherwise it downgrades it all to like people do on Facebook and things. So sorry, don't do the personal questions on here. Let's just see if there's any. So there we go. Claire's talking from Australia. Yeah, because we quite often miss out on the Australians because but now it's early in the morning. But you know, I feel there's going to be a lot more involvement. We're going to see a lot more of Australia on the news, particularly because their position is going to be so compromised as we start to see more and more. How can I say? Economic restrictions and export restrictions with China for the whole world. Let's face it, people are beginning to say, oh, they're the enemy now. And I've been saying that for a long, long time. And now we still buy all our goods from them. You know, I'm talking to a camera that's made in China. I'm looking at an iPad that was made in China. I've got a PC over there, most of which was made in China, and pretty much everything all around me, all my books and everything. You look at books where they're printed nowadays, they're all printed in China. So we're fools to ourselves, aren't we? Now, that's an interesting one, Nick, actually. And you're another one that's online all day long. Do you think there will ever be stronger hurricanes that knock down skyscrapers like you see in the thriller movies? In fact, yes, I do think that will happen. I know it's not a nice thing to say, but I think we're going to get to the point where we will start seeing hurricanes hitting the big high-rise cities like Miami, for example. Now, that's right in the hurricane zone, isn't it? Those sort of high-rise buildings there, and the high-rise building even in New York. I mean, when you put skyscrapers up next to each other, they become almost like a wind tunnel. You know, sometimes when the wind whistles through those high-rise places, the wind takes up speed. So if we start getting 150-mile-an-hour winds, which I think we will in time, probably in a shorter period of time than people say, I think it's coming quicker. I mean, you know, I think, like I said before, I think we've passed the point of saying we can stop global warming. Now we've got to deal with all these weather events. And I'm afraid I do feel that's going to happen. And I don't think that's going to be that far away, actually, sadly. And so that's an interesting one. What about Russia? I have quite a few thoughts about it. You remember I also said, didn't I? I said some while back that this is going back 2-3 years nearly now, when all the Syria crisis was happening. I said that Russia and China will become the best buddies. And over the last few years, that has definitely happened. And I said they would trade military hardware. That's starting to happen too. I think Russia ultimately, I mean, looking at the longer term future of Russia, though, Edgar Casey said that in Russia, there would be a great Christian kind of revival, that Russia would actually become a light to the world, that there would be a Christian revival. Well, there has kind of been, in a way, since communism, as per the past communism, changed. There's more religious freedom there. But still, people in Russia at the moment are still kind of trapped in the old ways, aren't they? They still have to have a dictator. Putin is, in my opinion, no more than a dictator. Russian democracy is no more than a sham, really. And I think there's a lot of complacency in the Russian middle classes, because it's like, as long as I'm all right, I don't care. There seems to be a certain selfishness in the vibration of the people in Russia. And I actually did some programs on Russian television. I've even got some of my books actually have been translated into Russian. So, you know, it's not that Russia's out of reach of the world. But I think there's a complacency amongst the middle classes. And it's not until things get really bad again, financially, for example, that Russia would the people would start to value the democracy that they hoped for when the wall fell down. So my thoughts with Russia is that Russia is too much in bed with China. And I think until something happens in China, and I think something will ultimately happen in China, like I said, I think it will cave in, Russia is going to be very much at the mercy of Putin's ideas, really, because that's not necessarily the ideas of the Russian people, is it? You know, it's the ideas of one man, you know, or a group of people who have power and have huge amounts of wealth in their places around the Black Sea and so forth. So I don't see things changing much with Russia. I think Russia's going to become a bit more of an enemy of the West again as it teams up with China. I mean, it makes sense. Russia either looks west or it looks east. It's always been the case, you know. They built St. Petersburg because Russia decided to look west. It used to look east. I think it will look east again for now. And I see in Russia massive problems with environmental fires. Russia, I see in due course, I think that the all the permafrost, when it starts to melt and the rest of it, all that peat there, we're going to get fires that are burning the earth itself, not just the forest. So sad to say things like that, but I think it will be, I'll have to have a really deep meditate on that sometime and see what comes up and do a really specific one on Russia, you know. But anyway, we don't want to keep just doing predictions, guys, but if you've got anything you want to ask, you're welcome to ask. I'll have a look and see what you, any ideas you just want to share, you know. And like I said, I'm not going to be on for long. But I thought I'd just drop on for a few minutes and do one of my random ones that, you know. I'm going quiet because I'm looking what you got here. I thought that one up because that's a pretty contentious, interesting one. You know, are the governments working with different alien entities? Is that why they're always fighting? Well, that would be an interesting concept, wouldn't it? Two alien invasions and they're fighting through different countries. I mean, my thoughts are, I know a lot of you guys that follow me are very into the idea of aliens, and I am. But I don't think we've got the interference of an alien race working behind the scenes, like people like David Icke say. I think, however, there has been past contact with aliens. I think there has been contact in the past, but I don't think they've got their influence here at the moment. And I think the way we would contact aliens, and I think that's the way they contacted in the past, is more through kind of people being able to change their consciousness and vibrate on another dimensional level, that you can perhaps connect, just like I would connect with the spirit world. I think it is possible to make an alien contact through awareness, as it were. But everything I've ever seen as an example of that, and everything I've seen even on the web as an example of that, to me is completely doolally, what I've seen. So I don't believe what a lot of these guys are saying, but I think it is possible, but I just don't think it's happened yet. So it would be interesting, and I think we can't travel those vast distances in a material way. So the idea of spaceships coming here, I don't think that's possible, but that might be possible, sort of kind of like an interdimensional travel, which would mean not necessarily physically connecting with each other, but more like the way we would enter the spirit world or be able to enter astral projection and things like that. I think that's a possibility with that type of thing. It really needs a bit more sort of thought to give you a proper answer on that one, actually. Right, there's it doesn't all come up on the screen, but it says, Craig, there are many economists that say we have a huge dark economic period coming up. Is this true? Should we be preparing? Will the stores go bare and the grids go dark? I don't think it would be as bad as that, but I think we're going to have an economic difficulties ahead. The main one's going to be inflation, because it's already kind of signs of it out there. But I've said again a while back that I felt inflation is going to be the downfall of a lot of the plans that we're making economically. There's a number of things that are going to make things very difficult in the world, because we're getting this shift to power with China again. I keep saying about China, and some of you might think I'm a bit obsessed with that, but what's happening in China is so relevant because it's shifting the whole way the world works, and it's shifted the whole way economies work. And also cryptocurrencies are making the whole thing very different, because that's kind of like, You know, in a cryptocurrency, for example, you can be completely in control of a currency. It's outside of the control of nations. So all of this is going to kind of shake up the economic way things are done. You know, I think cryptocurrencies in particular will make a big difference later on, and there's going to be a big battle between governments trying to regulate against it and independent cryptocurrencies probably run by corporations trying to set up a secondary system. Meanwhile, we've got all this happening in Russia and China that we were talking about, causing all sorts of God knows what problems that are going to upset the world's economies. So, for example, like we talked about Australia earlier, what's going to happen to Australia if the door comes down on trading with China? It requires all those raw materials. Where's it going to sell its uranium? Where is it going to sell its iron? Where is it going to sell its coal? If there's problems, that starts to create massive problems in countries like Australia. Then other countries, Europe, you know, we haven't begun to see the problems in Europe. There's a lot of Europe works as long as there's plenty of money coming in. But how would Europe work if there was a recession, a real serious depression sort of recession like we saw at the times of Germany's rise and the inflation of the German mark? You know, what would everybody be waving the same flag? I don't think so. So I think that there will be economic problems ahead, caused partly by all the things that are happening around the world. We're also seeing the decline of America, albeit a slow decline, but we are seeing the decline of America. They're going the same way that Britain went with its empire. And look how quickly, in terms of how quickly Britain turned from being the most powerful country in the world to one of the least important now in terms of who decides what the world politics are. World events are going to be, you know, the power is shifting. And with that, I think the whole economic system is shifting. I think we're going to have a complete new rethink of how economies will work. So I feel optimistic in that something good will come out of it. I feel kind of a bit optimistic about the idea of a universal wage, although I also feel worried about that as well, because who controls what? There's always been, isn't there? I don't know what you put your thoughts in the comments as well afterwards, but there's always been the ruling class and the slave class. You know, people go on about how wonderful Greece was and what a wonderful culture that was with its democracy and its beautiful art. But it was built on slavery, you know. And even today, you know, we got slavery, but in a different form. We've got slave labor wages here in Britain. If you're watching from America, we've got a whole big problem at the moment where we can't deliver anything because we've got no lorry drivers. Why have we got no lorry drivers? Because we've been relying constantly on cheap labor from the Eastern Europe, you know, and now those guys have all gone back home, and now we've got no lorry driver because nobody's prepared to do those lorry drivers' jobs, which are very hard jobs, for next to nothing, you know, and it takes years to train up new guys. So, you know, we pay the price long term, don't we? We pay the price long term for our short term thinking. And to answer the question a little bit further about the economic way ahead, I think we will pay the price. And we've got a huge bill to pay, all of us. This virus has caused one of the biggest financial borrowing spates around the world since time's begun, hasn't it? I mean, how are we going to pay that back? We're just going to shift it down the road to make other later generations pay it? It's not going to work. Anyway, so maybe, Joanna, they're right. You know, that's my thoughts. I mean, I'm not talking full-on psychic prediction stuff here. I'm kind of giving a bit of opinionized sort of view of things, but that's just my thoughts. Well, I'm not going to stay much longer on, guys. I'll just go to the next one there about the cryptocurrency, because that's kind of relevant again with what I was saying earlier. I don't think with the form that we've got a cryptocurrency at the moment is going to be the way. My worry is that we've got multiple cryptocurrencies at the moment. It's like when everybody went out buying domain names and the rest of it. You thought, if as long as you got a domain name, everything's gonna be fantastic. The sort of surge to buy anything that was web-based, you know, some of it's going to work, some of it's not. And I think it's the same with cryptocurrencies. I mean, you see sudden surges recently in Dogecoin or Dogecoin, whatever you call it. You know, that was a great big leaps, but then it also makes great big drops down again. And I think we're going to see some currencies completely flounder and a lot of people lose a lot of money. But some of them will survive. And I think the ones that will survive will probably be the ones that kind of start to get used by the big banking organizations, you know, places in Switzerland and all the hidden banks and all the behind the scene banking scenes, that some will survive. So it's not all downhill, but I think there's going to be a bubble pop not far away. I think there's going to be a bubble pop where a lot of people will lose a lot of money quick, but not everything, not all of them. That's my thought. But I think we'll see a big shake up with that as time goes on. So let's just see a few of your thoughts here. Well, there's one saying, Agility Bits, yeah, another one of our patrons. I'd love to know if we'll rejoin the EU. I don't think we're going to rejoin the EU because I don't think the EU is going to be there in quite the form that we see it now. I mean, I've said this before, and I see the EU ultimately splitting up. But splitting up not into individual nations that we saw before, but into other groups, with one particular group being like a German federation with countries linked around Germany. But I don't see, for example, France and Italy being part of that. So this is something I've spoke about some way in the past. And I think we'll see a kind of a rejuggle of everything. But I think the ideals of the EU of being a sort of a free movement of people, I think that's going to collapse, particularly since we're going to get a huge immigration wave coming from not just Afghanistan, but from Africa again, because, you know, we've got global warming ahead. And as people's land dries up and the rivers dry up and the crops fail, what are they going to do? They're going to migrate. It's natural. That's what humans have always done. The problem is, where do they migrate to? And this is going to be, you know, problems for the free movement of people for Europe, I feel. So I don't feel that we will rejoin the EU, Pat, but that is how I feel things will go. That's an interesting one. Brian's saying there, will artificial intelligence influence future politics? I mean, I should do a whole one on artificial intelligence. It'd be quite good to come on and just talk about that for a while sometime, because my thoughts are the implications of artificial intelligence are massive, massive when you think about it. You know, what if we can't use passwords anymore straight away on the web? You know, the web with a very sophisticated form of quantum computing stroke artificial intelligence would be almost unworkable in the way we have it at the moment. And the problem is these technologies come on so fast that, you know, it could go faster than the internet, say, could catch up, or businesses could catch up. We got opposite things such as facial recognition and things like that, but even that can be easily faked up and faked and used and misused. And when it comes to politics, artificial intelligence is a tremendously dangerous thing, isn't it? Because if you know all the information about me, where I go, so you can track my face on all the, not just here on the internet, but all around on the cameras that are around London and England and America, and if I go abroad, my face could be tracked everywhere. They'd know everything about me. And the problem is, people know too much about us. I think it's absolute criminal that people like Google and Facebook and YouTube and all of them can retain information about us. All that information that we have about ourselves should be kept on locally. We should let them know when we're prepared to share it. If they want to know what videos we want to watch, we should click a little button and say, okay, you can have temporary access to my information, so you know what my like list is. After that, you've got no information at all. You can't throw advertising at me. Now, this is what's happening, where artificial intelligence in particular is beginning to become linked in with the whole idea of algorithms and anticipating people's behavior and the rest of it. And that's terrible, that's in the hands of capitalism and big businesses who really don't give a damn about anybody. They're only interested in a profit. Now, if you put those same tools in the hands of politicians to influencers in subtle ways, but of knowing, for example, that I might like drinking Coca-Cola, all right, so but I don't like drinking Pepsi, all right, so when I see my politician talking to me on the screen, he could be drinking the Coca-Cola. They could mat it in the exact and have the same car that I've got or the same living room that I've got. They could target us all with this, and I see that happening. Face matting is another terrible thing. You could just have a clone sort of type figure that you could face mat, and you like that person because he gives all the signals you want, because it's reading your algorithm. And that's where I think artificial intelligence is really going to be the most dangerous thing. They own too much information about us, and I think all of us should be really thinking hard about where that's going to go, because what is the future world like when you cannot escape the constant intrusion, first of all, of advertising? But it's exactly the same as 1984, isn't it? But even more frightening, because they know everything you do. They know more about what I've purchased and what I've done than I do. Sometimes you'll see things pop up on Amazon. You think, I bought that 5 years ago. How do they know that? Or it'll track you and follow you everywhere around. So I think that's an interesting question. Politics, what will happen with that? I think there's going to be a lot of battles ahead with that. I pray that politics is not able to use artificial intelligence to the extent that they could do, but I think they will. And if they do, there's going to have to be a radical resistance against it. I really think that democracy in the coming years and in the coming 10 years is going to be completely under threat. Democracy as we know it is far more threatened than any of us have ever considered. Not only do we have all these things about, there's hidden agendas with this party and that party, but they know too much about us. And it's so dangerous. We do not know who we're voting for. In any country, we do not know where these things are being made, where things are being manufactured. All the money's siphoned off to places like China and that, and all. Well, you can't buy British. I couldn't buy British. You couldn't buy American. You're buying stuff and all the rest of it by these hidden agendas. And I think artificial intelligence, as a topic, I'll have to come back to at another time. Anyway, as I said at the beginning, I came online straight away just to give you an announcement, really, to say that Jane and I will be doing a live theatre show. Now, I know I'm speaking to people all over the world at the moment, but it's in Southampton, England, at the Concord Club. Have a look in the link below. Those of you that are close enough to get to us to come and see our show, you can get to us from London. You can get to us from most of the south of England. It'll be a fantastic night. And look out for our live now, because the live that me and Jane do from the spiritual center is on Saturday nights now, and that's at 7 o'clock. And if you join us on Saturday, I'm also going to be giving away a free book download. So those of you that want to join us on Saturday with me and Jane, we're going to be talking about all the things, what it's like about being a professional psychic medium, all the pitfalls we've been through, what happens when you start going on the media, how do you get on the media, how do you go about it, what do you do, all those type of things. So if you want to come and join us for that one, I'll see you then. Okay, I'm going to have to say bye now, folks. All right, thanks for joining us. See you soon. Bye for now.